Alfons Eyckmans is a prolific burr puzzle designer, and several years ago he created a series of puzzles he called Spies. And there are 6 Spies puzzles in this series. This is the first installment of a series of videos that I hope to create highlighting these puzzles and showing those interested how to build these puzzles with a 3D printer. The nice thing about working on a puzzle series is that you can use some of the learning from one puzzle to the next. For the more difficult puzzles, I'll show how I put these puzzles together without knowing how to solve them, so that I can discover the solution by taking them apart. For the expert solver, you can tackle these by assembling the puzzle by parts, but be warned, it might be much more difficult. Alfons has his woodworking shop in Belgium and creates most of his designs in wood. I think the first Spies puzzle might have appeared on his Facebook site about 2018. This video will provide some hints on building and solving the first Spies puzzle that was provided by Richard Gain, who listed the 3D print model files, the STL files, on several sites such as Thingiverse and printables.com. Nothing can compare to the precision and beauty of wooden puzzles, and you can contact Alfons on his Facebook site if you wish to purchase any of his works. One problem with building burr puzzles using a 3D printer is that there may not be an easy way to assemble them without knowing the solution. In these puzzles with plates and pieces, each can have 4 different orientations. If you have 3 plates, this gives 64 different combinations to try, which might take so much time that potential solvers may not invest the time required to find a solution. However, solving puzzles is more about the journey than the end goal, and I know it sounds like a cliche, but investing time in learning how the pieces move should be very rewarding, and going quickly to a solution doesn't allow you to discover all the wonderful characteristics of each puzzle. Along with some hints, I often use a split plate to allow me to assemble a puzzle, and then I can discover its solution by taking it apart. This is an example of a puzzle by Yamamoto called Neo Saturn, and here I used a V-groove around the plate. I split the plate in 2 and used a PETG band, because PETG is more pliable, to put it together and assemble the puzzle. I took several hours playing with it before I learned of its solution. For this first Spies puzzle, I've also provided a split plate that will allow you to assemble the puzzle if you wish to solve it by taking it apart. This is totally optional. You can still attempt to solve it by putting it together from individual parts. To start, you first have to build this with a 3D printer. So go to one of the sites that Richard Gain has put up. You can use printables.com, Thingiverse, perhaps it's on things. It's on many places on the internet. You can also build my split plate, which is provided through a link in the description. You simply use a couple screws to put the part together, and I'll show that later on. You don't require any rotations of any parts to solve this puzzle. I ignored this and I found a solution where I'd rotated so many parts that I couldn't backtrack and take it apart. Now, pieces will often rotate on their own just from gravity. So it might be easier to solve this on a tabletop to prevent unwanted rotation. Sometimes you need 3 hands. I've provided a set of hints. Most of the hints show the proper orientation of the parts. And there's also a final hint that shows you how to build this with this 2-piece plate. So you can put the puzzle together and then discover how to take it apart. Finally, there's a full solution for you. This is the first hint, and it shows the proper orientation of those top 2 plates. Tip number 2 shows how the fork is oriented. Tip number 3 shows the 3 red pieces in this puzzle. Now, this is one look at them. It's not in the proper orientation, but you can see how the parts are aligned. As the plates are, these pieces stand up in this direction. So that's the final positioning of these three parts. Now, hint number 4 shows how to use the two-piece plate to assemble the puzzle. So you replace one of the brown plates with this two-piece, and you'll notice here there's a little marking there to line up, so you don't get the plate backwards. Now, to start with, you take that first plate and you put in all three pieces in the proper orientation along with the fork. And I'm not going to show you how to do that because that's part of the discovery of the puzzle. I'll show you the final result of this. So here are all the pieces in the proper orientation with the fork and the first plate. You now take that two-part plate and put it around those pieces and screw it together as shown. Insert the two screws, and you've got a fully assembled puzzle that you can take apart and discover the solution. Now for the final solution. And now to assemble the puzzle, the solution is shown here. To disassemble it, you just reverse these steps. You first put in the what I call the last two red pieces first. And to get them out of the way, you slide them to the left. Notice the plates are offset a little bit left-right. This final piece will go downwards. And you slide the two plates together, and putting the top pieces up and the bottom pieces down, you should have an area where you can insert the fork. You'll find the fork will slide to the left beyond the plates, and that becomes important. The first step is to put the right hand red piece on the fork, but then that's eventually going to go all the way to the left. And you can see that if you put those two left-hand pieces up, there's room to slide that piece all the way to the left. And as I said, you sometimes need three hands to do this. Now you want that other piece all the way to the left. And to do that, you need to split the parts left to right a little bit. And then there'll be enough room to move those two pieces up. And then you simply slide the bottom piece all the way to the left. Push the two plates together. And now, if you move those two pieces on the right all the way to the right, and one on the left to the left, the top plate will slide down. And that will allow you to move the fork a little bit to the left. And that allows this rightmost piece to drop down a little bit. And from there, we can move the fork all the way over. From there, you can get the last two pieces. You can slide those down and onto the fork fairly easily. And that's the solution. Only use as many hints as you need, and I hope you enjoyed discovering the solution to this puzzle.